What's good, YouTube? This is going to be a really short intro, so I just want to go ahead and get into it. This is part 2 of the top 15 videos. Had to cut it short. Apologize for that. So, yeah, here we go. Let's just get right into it. Moved the camera because it fell. But if you're watching this also on your own or whatever, we're at 7:21 in the video. So 3, 2, 1, let's get it. Hold on. Try that again. 3, 2, 1, let's get it.
Number 7. I live in Sydney, Australia, and this was probably just over a year ago. I was driving with my girlfriend back to my home after going out for dinner at a friend's house, which is about 15 minutes away from my area called Watson's Bay. To get back to my place, you need to drive down into the valley near the harbor down a long winding main road that progressively takes you down to the water. It's about 1:30 or 2 a.m. and we're making our ways down the road and not really paying much attention. And she suddenly grabs my arm and gasps, which freaks me out already. As I'm looking around to see what the fuck is going on, we approach the roundabout and there's a man in medical looking attire next to a woman in what looks like white pajamas with blood covering a lot of her clothing. Now obviously my balls drop and instincts kick in as I speed up. It's quite a small roundabout, so you need to either slow down enough to turn left or speed up and get the fuck straight out of there. I go straight, and as we pass, the woman attempts to launch herself at my car as the man looks like he was trying to stop her. We get home about 3 or 4 minutes later and we're both shaken and basically scared shitless. Called the police to inform them of what we saw and just got a call back the next morning explaining how a woman had somehow run away from a mental home and was attempting to commit suicide using sharp objects and running onto main roads. The man was one of the first workers who knew her on the scene, and apparently they managed to bring her back to where she lived. Heard nothing more after that. Number 6. We were partying at a usual party spot by the river, and some dude came out of the woods. He just kept saying weird shit like, "You gotta watch yourself down there. There's some really bad folks around here." When we asked who he was, he just said, "I'm nobody." We're all a little sketched out and basically told the guy to fuck off.
Horror movie. A couple
of days later, a girl went off the rope swing there and got really fucked up. Someone put fish hooks all over the bottom of the rope swing, and it took chunks of flesh out of her leg. Later we found out that the dude was just a guy who lived nearby, and although it was a creepy drunk, he was totally harmless. There was a fucked up, probably inbred family that lived up the road that he would warn people about. About 5 years later, last year, they beat up some kid with a log and then kidnapped some girl at gunpoint and took her on a joyride. Number 5. When I was about 10, me and my family of 6 lived in an extremely small apartment. 2-bedroom upstairs and then the living room. When I was tired of my siblings, I would sleep downstairs. One night I'm lying on the couch facing the front door and watching the sky through the window by the door when a face shows up in the window illuminated by a light.
Hold on. We're pausing at 9:38. Like I said in part 1, that's literally one of my biggest fears. Being. That's why I keep looking back to make sure, not being stared at. But that is genuinely terrifying. Just imagine a dude staring at you through the window with a lighter, and you see his face being illuminated by that. Take a second and think. Some people's like, "Oh, that's not scary." To me, that's horrifying. Like, stuff like that scares me. I'm like, that's horrifying to me. But let me know in the comments if you're big and brave, unlike me. Here we go, 9:38.
Neighbors seeing if my parents were still awake when it showed up again. I try to scream, but when I do, nothing comes out, not a sound. The person then kicks in the door and walks in the room. He sees me, smiles, goes towards the kitchen. As he comes out of the kitchen with a knife, my dad makes it down the stairs and the guy books it out of there. Creepy. I can't sleep easily on couches to this day. Number 4. I was 6 or 7 years old in my parents' apartment and heading towards the kitchen. So I go towards the kitchen where my mom is talking on.
We gotta pause again here at 10:04. I'm genuinely creeped out by that, because I used to have to sleep on a couch, and that used to be, and there was a window right here. The couch was like, it was a couch and there was a window, and I used to be so terrified of people staring at me through it. And I got a ghost story about that. Again, leave it down below if you want to hear it. Yeah, genuinely, that's terrifying to me. But here we go, 10:04.
phone. At the end of the corridor in front of me, I see the front door opening and halting because of the door chain holding it. I thought it was my dad. It was about 11 in the morning, so I think my dad will close the door and ring the doorbell for my mom to open up the chain. It was weird because I hadn't heard the key turning, except that nobody rings the door and an enormous hairy hand that definitely doesn't belong to my father tries to pull on the chain. Immediately, I understand it's a burglar. I rush to slam shut the door with my entire body while I whine a little no. So there's me slamming against the door with all my 7-year-old strength, panicked out of my mind, and then putting all my weight against the infernal piece of wood with a huge burglar on the other side trying to keep the door open so he can pull the chain off. Fingers trying to grasp the end of the chain, and my mother completely oblivious about 12 feet away in the next room. I tried to scream at my mother. I remember yelling muffled pieces of "Mom, Mom," but she thinks I'm horsing around and pays no attention. It's after my 7th or 8th scream when I was about to give up all hope when I heard my mom that she'll call her back because I've done something and she needed to check on me. The burglar heard her and let me close the door. My mom arrives and demands to know what I'm doing. I'm crying at that point, not being able to utter a coherent sentence, trying to point at the door saying only "burglar out" or something to that effect. My mother, not getting the hint, comes over and tries to open the door to see what the fuss is all about, with me still pushing against it. As soon as I realized what she was about to do, I tried to push her away, crying, sobbing at her, "Don't open the door, there's a burglar outside." I had to fall on my ass, then on my knees, and beg her against trying to push me aside before she decided to change her mind and see through the peephole instead of opening the door. So she looks through it in a hurry and starts saying, "See, there's no one and I see her very annoyed face turning pale as a sheet all of a sudden. She grabs me and pushes me aside from the door and tells me to go get her phone. I rush to the kitchen. I heard her yell through the door, "I can see you crouching, you're behind the door. I'm not gonna open, and I'm calling the police right this minute." The bastard was still behind the door, crouching as low as he could, not making a sound, so my mom would think no one was outside as she opened the door and he'd rush inside. My mom called the police, and after 5 minutes of my mom issuing threats through the door, we heard someone creeping away from the hallway and down the building entrance and outside the building door. My mom was white as a sheet, not making a sound or expressing any emotion throughout the whole ordeal. After about half an hour later, my father arrived, oblivious to the whole thing. When my mom told him about what happened, he went and got a new lock and a better door chain. The police arrived that afternoon, a full 5 hours later, even though the police station was a 10-minute drive from our house. I don't think the burglar was ever caught. Number 3. My mom had been crying a lot. Her first semester away at college, and her husband had been batshit.
Here at 12:39, I gotta pause again, cause look at this picture. That is what I'm talking about. Where being scared of looking at. That's it right there. Make sure. That exact picture is my fear. Being stared at like that, especially with a knife. What? Yeah, that's my fear right there. If what I was talking about right there was not coherent enough for you, there you go. That's my fear. That's what I'm scared of, being stared at like that. And I apologize for going quiet on the last story. I'm sitting here trying to think what would I do in that situation. I don't even know what I would do. So here we go, 12:39. We just got 10 minutes. I ain't even paused yet, but 10 minutes left. I didn't even think, I thought, because we're on story number 3, I was thinking we'd already be almost done, but here we go.
He hit her for the first time 4 nights before I moved out. She locked him out of the house and he banged on the doors. In the middle of the night, he had driven away and hadn't seen him since. When I answered, she said she'd gotten a phone call while she was watching TV. The person on the other end of the line said he had been hired to kill her and her kids, but if she could make him a better offer, he wouldn't do it. He told her what TV show she was watching. He told her what dorm I lived in. He told her that my brother was upstairs playing video games when he was supposed to be asleep. She ran upstairs. My little brother was playing video games in his room. She yelled at him to pack a bag. The person on the phone had hung up. She called me. I waited for 45 minutes before leaving, hoping my roommates would show up and help me figure out what to do. I said I'd call the police, but my mom said no. She said please come help her. My roommates didn't come home. The RA was gone. I got into my truck and made a 45-minute drive in 20 minutes. The highway was nearly deserted. I hoped a police officer would pull me over. They'd know what to do and I'd be able to say I hadn't called the cops. I accidentally missed my turn when my mother called me 3 times in a row. I accidentally ran a red light when I answered. A cop was right there. He didn't pull me over. When I got to our neighborhood, I parked 2 streets away and used my ROTC tactical movements to go through the alleys to our backyard. I tried to call my mother 3 times, but she didn't answer. I put my phone on vibrate. The gate was closed, but when I opened it, I saw a back door standing open. No one was out there. I hesitated and went in, calling out softly for our dogs. They weren't there. Those dogs bark at everything. They were either not in the house or they were dead. I got a knife from the kitchen and started a room-by-room search. Kitchen and laundry room were clear. I refused to check the garage. Dining room clear. Living room clear. But oh fuck, there's a broken vase. Downstairs bathroom clear. I didn't go into the master bedroom because I fully expected to find my mother dead. I needed to get upstairs to the second bedroom on the right. My bedroom to get my rifle, the only gun in the house. But no one was downstairs and the upstairs was completely dark. There was a blind corner right at the top of the stairs. Anyone could be hiding there. I was 100% freaking the fuck out as I climbed the stairs. I got almost halfway up when someone started banging on the front door, which is right in front of the stairs. I froze. I turned halfway so no one could surprise me from the second floor. "Who's there?" I screamed. My cover was blown anyway. If anyone was in the house, they knew I was there. Whoever was outside could see me through the glass at the top of the door, but it was too dark for me to see them. No one answered, but they kept pounding on the door. "Who the fuck is it?" I screamed. Now at the base of the steps, they kept banging on the door. "I'll kill you, motherfucker," I screamed as I flung open the door to see my mother standing there with the dogs in her arms. "Why didn't you answer?" I asked. She said she wasn't sure if it was me or not. And if it hadn't been me, what were you gonna do? Throw the dogs at them? She hadn't thought that far ahead. I told her the back door had been open, but she said it had been locked when she left. I said I checked most of the downstairs and was going upstairs for the gun. She said go up and get it, so I went up with my knife and checked the upstairs while I was at it. Then I checked the rest of the downstairs. She had taken my brother to a friend's house, which is why she hadn't answered the phone when I called. She'd been driving. I spent the night barricading the doors and windows and begging her to leave. Just leave. She baked me some cookies. Her face was blue and purple from her husband's last visit. She said my brother had tried to protect her and he didn't look so great either. I said I'd kill her husband. She said she knew and so did he, which is why he left when they called me. I feel like I should mention I'm a chick and he was a good foot taller than me and easily 50 pounds heavier, but I would have killed him. In the morning, I had to leave early to be at PT for ROTC at 5:30 a.m. I had maybe 45 minutes of sleep where my mom had asked me to stay on the living room floor outside the master bedroom. I lost it at PT and then again in my weekly meeting with my athletics advisor. My ROTC instructors and my athletic advisor were horrified. We got a restraining order that day against my mom's husband. He couldn't come on campus. I wasn't allowed to walk on campus alone. My roommates got extra security. A few weeks later, my mom's husband tried to kill her on my 19th birthday. He was in his car and he'd thrown her a phone, which she was using to dial 911 on the passenger seat. She'd reached in to get it and he grabbed her arm and held her while he reversed out of the driveway and dragged her down the alley. He let go and her head slammed against the ground. She had a concussion. He tried to back over her, but she screamed and rolled away. He ran over her foot and hand. Our neighbor came out of the house and screamed, which scared him away. My mother and brother went into hiding that night. Being on those stairs, certain my family was dead and I was also about to die, was the scariest moment of my life. And having someone bang on the door and not answer when I'm screaming at them, having to open it thinking it was a killer on the other side. Creepiest.
Hold on.
Nope.
We're pausing that at 17:12 here. That genuinely is the most terrifying story I've ever heard in my life. Could you imagine that? Like, I don't know what I would do if I was in their situation. Like, because I don't think I'd be able to do that in that situation. All the stuff she did and, like, have no fear of doing it. Well, of course. Like she said, like, having fear there at the end. But I don't know what I would do in that situation. If I was ever in that situation, I don't think would be equipped to handle that situation. Not with just a knife. Like, a baseball bat. I feel like a baseball bat or something would be better because it's more range. You ain't got to get close to them. But that genuinely was the creepiest story I've ever heard in my life. And we still got 2 and 1 to go. But here we go, 17-12.
Number 2. I was born and raised in North Dakota. Back when I was in
lives
high
there.
school, a group of us would research murders that occurred out in the country. We would then go out and find the scenes and film the exploration at night. This was about 2 years before the Blair Witch. It was something to do while we got wasted on shitty beer and teenage bullshit. Eventually, we ran out of places to go and got really good at finding abandoned rural farmsteads by driving dirt
still
roads
shocked
and
about
looking
that
for the
last story.
signs. Rut roads, deliberate tree groves, and old mailbox posts were common markers. We were out looking when we spotted a tree grove that was out of place and drove through the field and discovered an old house. It had padlocks on the outside doors that were knocked off pretty easily. We dispatched of them and entered the kitchen. There were 6 of us, all with flashlights, and we lit up the kitchen dining area fairly easy. The table was the initial thing you noticed, and it was strange because of how normal it looked. It was set for a meal and not a bowl was out of place. Only thing was, we'd been in dozens of these houses and place settings were a first, especially on broken ones. As we investigated the area, we found the fridge had the disgusting remnants of a full stock and the cupboards were full of canned and dry foods. This was also a first. One guy found mail on the counter from early June 1978 and the other found a creepy ass TV guide in the living room with UFOs on the cover. All the family photos were hanging up. Mom, dad, bro, and sis in their 1970s glory. Furniture was dusty but in good condition. Closets were full. Everything was totally normal, which was super abnormal. As we dug around the house, we started to realize that the house had not been moved out of. It has been straight up abandoned. Imagine locking the door to your house and never coming back. That's the state this house was in. Complete unplanned departure. We went upstairs and split into 3 pairs to check out the 3 rooms. Ours was the closest, and obviously it was the younger boy's room. I can't describe what it looked like too well because almost right away from the hall we heard the most fucking terrifying scream I'd ever had the misfortune of hearing. We went running into the hallway and we were all yelling questions at each other at the same time. After a few seconds, the 2 screamers caught their breath and said, "You have to go in and see." Walking down the hall and through the doorway, I prayed I wouldn't act like a pussy in front of my friends. I shouldn't have been concerned because the others were just as scared as I was. The room itself opened to the left of the door frame and centered on the right side of the room was a queenish sized bed. Propped up on pillows with all the blankets drawn to the waist, arms on the top of the blanket, and worst of all, head turned slightly so I was looking at you straight in the eyes when you entered the room, was a life-size porcelain, snow white skin, jet black hair, cold dead eyes. The dead eyes lit up with our flashlights, like she was waiting for us. If the head hadn't been turned, I could excuse it, but it was turned, ready for when we walked in, ready for 20 years. Hasty fucking exits were made as we moved down the stairs and got into the car.
There's the creepy factor.
During the ride, we started to get even more creeped out when we realized that even though the house had been abandoned, someone had taken the time to set up that goddamn doll. Not packing food, clothes, or family photos, setting up the doll was one of the last things done in this house. We researched their names but got nothing. No tragic car accident, no grisly massacre, no extended family, just a tacky time capsule in the middle of nowhere.
I hate dolls
We found out
too,
that the county had taken possession of the land for non-payment of
scary,
taxes, explaining the locks, but never tracked down any more information on what happened to them or why they left that fucking doll. Number 1. A few years back, I rented an apartment from a friend of mine. He had recently bought it and had it completely renovated. He put it up for sale but couldn't find a buyer, so I offered to rent it in the meantime. After moving in, I realized that there was something wrong with the lady next door. She was about 45 but looked much older. She would sit up all night listening to Christian radio shows and talking loudly to someone. It got to the point where I couldn't sleep, so I went over to her place and asked her to keep it down. She opened the door and I got a quick peek. Her walls had crosses painted all over them in different colors, and words like Jesus and angel scribbled everywhere. The windows were painted black, letting no light in at all. It was damp, yellow-stained 50-year-old carpets, dog shit and cockroaches everywhere. No dog though. I asked her to keep it down. She just looked at me and shut the door, then she turned up the radio even louder. The next night I had my girlfriend staying over. I wake up in the middle of the night and see a shadow of a person next to the bed looking at us sleeping. I think I'm hallucinating this as I usually do in the dark when I'm sleepy, but then the shadow starts talking. It's my neighbor and she's holding something in her hand. She broke in during the night and who knows how long she stood there. "You should lock your doors at night," she said, and walks out. The next morning I hear someone making strange noises below my bedroom window. It's my neighbor talking to herself in tongue. She has a plastic bag in her hand with a rotting dead dog inside. It's hot as hell outside and I can smell death from the bag. At this point I'm scared shitless. She's obviously very insane. I go upstairs and knock on another another person's door and ask what the hell is going on. The guy's just as scared as me. Apparently she broke into the apartment one evening as well while he was watching TV with his kids. He got up from the couch to get a snack only to find her behind the couch staring at him holding a power drill. Now I know what was in her hand. At this stage I'm basically pooping myself. I call the cops and they know about her. Apparently she is a violent schizophrenic and she hasn't taken her meds, but they can't force her or enter her apartment without her permission because she owns it. The only thing they can do is get her when she goes outside. I sit up for the next 2 days waiting for her to run out of cigarettes. When I hear her leave at 2 a.m. to go across the road to the 7-Eleven, I call the cops. They have 3 cars in a special van over in less than 2 minutes. They restrain her, throw her in the van, and drive off to some institution. And in less than a minute, it's like she was never there. I never see her again. Still have nightmares about her looking at me in my sleep. Got an idea for a top 15 list? Leave it in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe for future videos.
Yeah, go subscribe to
Thanks
Top 15. I've been watching their videos forever. Take this off like I did last time. Don't mind the hair. Got all sweaty from the headset. But those were number three is gonna get me for a while. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna be thinking about that randomly at night. That just gonna pop back in my head. Sorry if I kept looking behind me and stuff. I just had to make sure, the paranoia. Scared somebody was looking at me because of the damn picture of the dude with the knife. Apologize for that. Yeah, this part is gonna be longer than part 1. I should have did more in part 1. My apologies. But that genuinely, these were some good stories. I can't lie. If number 3 was real, because some of these stories aren't real, that like people just very good writers. If story number 3 was real, I don't know what I would do in that situation. That was genuinely terrifying. But with that being said, thank you for watching part 2 to this creepy video. I'm still at loss for words. Still lost for words. But again, thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please abuse the like button. That's what it's there for, to be abused. It's like a punching bag. Just punch the like button. Do the same thing to the subscribe button. But you ain't got to do it to the bell. But please, hit the bell too. Yeah, more videos like this to come. If you got any videos, send them to me. Like, I would love to react to them. And if you send me a video, I'll shout you out and put you in the description. So thank you for watching. Peace out.